McLaughlin, I appreciate it. We heard, and now that we've seen this August 6th presidential daily briefing, after we've seen that August presidential daily briefing, it was causing me to sort of have serious questions about how these daily briefings are organized. But my guess is the president has not seen, President Bush has not seen the information about who al-Qaeda was. My guess is that President Bush today, he may just be discovering it for the first time, that we knew in 1996 that bin Laden was responsible for shooting down helicopters in Mogadishu. And this was in, this was in the trial in 2001. It doesn't appear to me that he was briefed in transition. It doesn't appear to me that that was brought to his attention. In other words, I think even as late as 2001, we were describing bin Laden as a terrorist, not somebody that had a substantial army and substantial capability and a history that went back long before 1998. I mean, the President says you meet with him practically every day. Did you bring that presentation to him? Did you describe as the walk-in did in 1996? As he described in the trial in 2001, did you bring that information to the president and say this is an army that's been engaged in an effort against the United States of America all the way back at least till 1993?
Well, whether I took it back in '93 or not, sir, I don't recall, but we certainly walked through al-Qaeda, its organization, the threat it posed, its previous affiliation with bombings and activities over a concerted period of time. But I'll go back and look at whether that was specifically raised. I don't recall it.
I appreciate it. And I'm going to do something I shouldn't do, which is yield back my time before my green light, before my red light goes on.
Osama bin Laden came to the FBI's attention after his first attack on the World Trade Center in February 1993. While the FBI has not linked the attack directly to bin Laden, the investigation developed information that Muslim men, including participants in the attack, have been recruited at the Al-Qifa Refugee Center in Brooklyn, New York, and sent to training camps in Afghanistan, first to fight the Soviet Army and later to engage in a jihad against the United States. In 1993, the FBI also learned of a plot to blow up bridges, tunnels, and landmarks in New York. That investigation led to the conviction of Omar Abdel Rahman, the Blind Sheikh, head of the Gamma Islamiyah radical fundamentalist group in Egypt, for soliciting others to commit all of those acts of terrorism in 1993. Bin Laden's fatwas and press statements later called for avenging the Blind Sheikh's imprisonment. The FBI has identified at least 2 bin Laden connections in Ramzi Yousef's 1995 conspiracy centered in the Philippines to blow up 12 U.S. airplanes flying East Asian routes to the United States. Mohammed Jamal Khalifa, the alleged financier of the plot, is bin Laden's brother-in-law. Ramzi Yousef was arrested at a bin Laden guest house in Pakistan, to which Yousef had fled after the plot had been uncovered. Yousef was a principal in the first World Trade Center attacks, for which he was tried and convicted upon being returned to the United States. George Tenet, the director of Central Intelligence, testified that a common thread runs between the first attack on the World Trade Center in February of '93 and the September 11th attacks. The thread is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, also known as Mukhtar, or the Brain. According to the director of Central Intelligence, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is a high-ranking al-Qaeda member and was the mastermind or one of the key planners of the September 11 operation. The director of Central Intelligence noted that Mukhtar is Ramzi Yousef's uncle, and after the World Trade Center attack, Mohammed joined Yousef in the 1995 airplane plot for which Mohammed had been indicted by a federal grand jury. In August 1996, bin Laden issued the first fatwa declaring jihad against the United States. A second fatwa in February of '98 proclaimed to kill the Americans and their allies, civilian and military, is an individual duty for every Muslim who could do it in any country in which it is possible to do it. Bin Laden repeated these threats in May 1998 press review, and the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania followed in August. In June 1998, the Department of Justice obtained a sealed indictment in the Southern District of New York against Osama bin Laden as the sole named defendant in a conspiracy to attack defense utilities of the United States. Among other overt acts, the indictment charged that in October of 1993, members of al-Qaeda participated with Somali tribesmen in an attack on the United States military personnel serving in Somalia, which killed a total of 18 U.S. soldiers and wounded 73 others. The indictment was unsealed after the East Africa embassy bombings and was followed by a series of superseding indictments that charged bin Laden and others with a conspiracy to murder United States nationals anywhere in the world, including in the United States. The U.S. government provided proof in the embassy bombing trials of bin Laden's direct connections to the attacks. Mohammed al-Ohali, who is to have been a suicide passenger in the Kenyan bombing, ran from the bomb truck moments before it exploded. After his arrest in Kenya, al-Ohali confessed and admitted that he had been given a telephone number in Sana'a, Yemen, which he would call before and after the bombing. Telephone records for calls to that number led to a bomb factory for the Nairobi attack in a house occupied by a high-ranking al-Qaeda member and training camp veteran. Calls from bin Laden's satellite phone to the Yemen number were made the day of the attack and the day after when al-Ohali called for that number to help. Al-Ohali also confessed that he had asked bin Laden for a mission, a request that led to his being in the bomb truck. According to al-Ohali, the suicide driver had been present with him at bin Laden's May 1998 press conference. U.S. investigators have also described bin Laden's connection to the October 2000 attack on the United States naval ship, USS Cole, which figured in the East Africa embassy bombings, was also used in planning the attack on USS Cole. In addition, Tawfiq Benatash, known as Khalad, who had been a trainer at an al-Qaeda camp in Afghanistan, prepared an introduction in the summer of 1999 for Abdel Rahim al-Nashiri, addressed to Jamal al-Badawi, who had been trained under Khalad. Al-Nashiri is believed to have been a longtime bin Laden operative and a first cousin of the suicide driver who attacked the U.S. embassies in Kenya. Khalad appears to have directed the Cole operation from Afghanistan or Pakistan, while al-Nashiri was its local manager. Investigators believe that Khalad's letter set in motion plans to attack another U.S. Navy ship. Following al-Nashiri's introduction, Badawi obtained the boat that would be used in the failed attack on the USS Sullivans in January 2000. The same boat was used later that year in the attack on the USS Cole. In testimony to the joint inquiry, the Director of Central Intelligence explained that after September 11, 2001, CIA learned that in 1996, bin Laden's second-in-command and military commander Mohammed Atef drew up a study on the feasibility of hijacking U.S. planes and destroying them in flight. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed proposed to bin Laden that the World Trade Center be targeted by small aircraft packed with explosives. Bin Laden reportedly suggested using even larger planes. According to the Director of Central Intelligence, Mohammed Atef chose the hijackers from young Arab men who had no previous terrorist activities. After bin Laden had approved the selection, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed trained and instructed them on acquiring pilot training and supervised the final touches of the September 11th operation.